These parents, Margaret and Michael Watson, have been prosecuted in court for not sending their children to school. Now they fear the girls, Fern, aged 5, and Corrie, 9, could be taken away and put into care. The Watsons live on Tyneside. They're among a growing number of parents who feel the present education system doesn't work for their children. Many face court prosecution for keeping them away. While their friends are in school assembly on Monday morning, the Watsons' children take a local geography lesson with their mother and father as the teachers.
That one there looks like he's going into the Fish Quay. I don't think he's going out.
No, he's just going out.
He's just going into Parket. That's like a car park for boats.
A boat park?
And can you see the lights? The low lights and the high lights?
Yeah.
If you line those up, you'd be able to see right between the piers. So that if there's a light on in the low lights, there's a light on in the high lights at night, a boat can line them up and come in a direct line and come straight between the piers.
The Watsons are part of a growing trend to reject school. The argument isn't about comprehensives or the 11 plus. At least 400 families now deliberately keep their children away from any school and teach them at home. For more and more children, education now means no more school. The Watsons rejected school 6 months ago and were prosecuted. But some families have defied school for years without pressure from education authorities. 10-year-old Elizabeth Theobald of Desborough, Northamptonshire, has never seen a classroom. Her brother Vincent is 13, and he hasn't been since he was 7. Instead, with some help from their mother, they teach themselves.
Now, Vincent, you actually went to school for some time. Can you remember anything about those days?
A little bit. Been given rotten pictures to write stories about, and I was helping someone else, one of the younger children once, and told to go and do the things I'd been given to do instead. Nothing much else, though.
Did you like it at school?
Well, I can't remember being physically unhappy, but I can't either remember being overjoyed about it.
What do your friends think now?
They don't take much notice.
No, not really. After the initial, "Cool, I didn't know it was loud," no one notice is taken.
What do you intend to do, Vincent, about examinations and things?
I'll take them when I get ready for them. There's tech that I can go to, and you can also take correspondence courses.
And what do you intend to do in the long term? What are you going to do when you're
I'm hoping to go and work for the Forestry Commission.
Do you intend to go to university to be able to do that?
Well, there's not many universities, whatever they call them, in the country that the Forestry Commission works from. So there's only a few. I hope to go to the Edinburgh one.
How did you come to be interested in forestry?
This started asking questions, that's the usual way, and progresses to pure interest, just wanting to know more about it.
What about when your mum doesn't know the answers to the questions?
Go and find a book and read the answers.
And how do you know where to find the book?
Got a library, you know how to look up through references, and easy enough.
Do you ever feel that you don't get on very well with other children of your own age because they go to school? Or do you get on very well with children of your own age?
I don't get on very well with children of my own age.
Well, the children that I know of my own age, I get on well enough with.
Do you have many friends of your own age?
Well, yes, I have got a few. From St John's.
Only about one. That's
She's usually got ones that are older.
Usually, yeah.
Do you find you get on better with children who are older than yourself than with children of your own age?
Yes.
Yes.
Why is that? What do you find strange about children of your own age?
They don't seem to understand things in the same way.
Well, they always tend to want to do something you don't really want to do, or they want to say, have a running race when you just want to listen to something.
You mean you find them a bit childish?
Yes.
The children's mother, Paula Theobald, used to be a teacher. She resigned and kept her children away from school as well because she believed the timetable system kills curiosity and makes learning a chore. Like growing numbers of parents, she made use of a clause in the 1944 Education Act that says, "It shall be the duty of the parent of every child of compulsory school age to cause him to receive efficient full-time education suitable to his age, ability and aptitude, either by regular attendance at school or otherwise." The Theobalds, in fact, now belong to a parents' pressure group called Education Otherwise that fights for the rights of parents to remove their children from school.
So how does your system?
We asked Paula how her children's learning differs from that of children in school classrooms.
Well, they choose the topics they want to work on, and they spend as long as they want to doing each of them. And they plan ahead maybe a week for some things, a month for others, or even longer, and follow through any topic they want to.
Suppose they never ever got interested in, say, mathematics or in, say, chemistry. Does that mean that since you have no formal method of education, that they would simply never learn about those subjects?
I don't think they'd be disinterested. You know, any topic that comes along, they show an interest in.
Do you think that applies to all children?
Yes. Well, when they're small, they're into everything. They want to know what this is, how, why, what. And it gradually stops as they get older. I can't believe that's just a growing up process.
Do they ever feel cut off or awkward with other children?
No.
Children who do
No.
go to school?
Never. And less awkward with adults than children who do go to school.
Why is that?
They've got more confidence.
And why should they have more confidence?
And it's because they're in control of what they're doing all the time. They choose what they're going to do, they set it out. It's not done just to get it over because it's been given to them. In what they do, they want to do thoroughly and do it properly.
Do you feel qualified to help them through secondary school level teaching?
Well, yes, I don't need to know what they need to know necessarily. I only need to help them find out where to go for the information, how to put it all together, how to sift through it, take notes, and this kind of thing.
But they do all that themselves?
Yes, now they know how to do it, yes.
Do you think any parent could do the same for their children, or is it because you're a teacher, you know how to pass that on to them?
No, any parent could, without much trouble, find out how to do this.
Are they going to pass GCE O-levels to compete with children who've been to ordinary schools?
Well, Vincent wants to go to university, so he knows he's got to have O-levels, got to have A-levels. But we shan't do those for the 3 years before the O-level, you know, as they would in school. Perhaps the last year would be sufficient. And extras he can get at the local further education college.
But suppose them simply following the path of their curiosity doesn't lead them to anything or to everything that's on the syllabus for the exams.
Well, if they want the exam, they'll just brush up on those extra bits they want.
The Theobald family believes that school kills off curiosity. For some children, it's a place of misery, especially those who are naturally quiet and shy. The question is, does home teaching actually work? To assess the quality of the Theobald's teaching, we called in the former Professor of Education at York University, Harry Ray. Professor Ray left academic education to go back to the classroom. Now a teacher in London, he feels passionately that educationalists should keep their links with the front line of teaching practice. We asked him to spend a day with this unusual family, checking the children's work by standards similar to those of a local authority. We asked him to test not only their intellectual ability, but also their range of learning and social development.
To look interesting.
Yeah, what makes it look interesting?
Well, if it looks complicated.
Good, good. And what about other subjects? What other things you're doing?
Well, I'm doing a study on Plantagenets.
Who are the Plantagenets?
A family of kings and
Good.
queens.
Yeah. You don't know why they're called Plantagenets, do you?
Yes, because because one of the kings liked a plant called broom, or Plantagenesta in Latin.
Jolly good.
And that's where the name Plantagenets came from.
Do you feel yourself rather special?
Sometimes
People
I
going, look at
feel.
this, after all, isn't every...
Sometimes I feel like a guinea pig.
Yes, well, I think, yes. Do you mind that?
No.
No.
Harry Ray, can I ask you what you think so far of this as a means of education instead of the school?
Well, it's fascinating, really, because, you see, this is exactly the way we're trying to get kids to behave in schools. I mean, in a good mixed ability class, and there are quite a lot of good mixed ability classes, you get teachers doing just what she was doing, and you get the kids working like that, intelligently, asking intelligent questions, I mean, there was a lovely moment then when she said, "Will you check it, please?" She said, "Just a minute, just a minute." It's just like any teacher. And of course, they've got already at a very early age this desire to learn, or they've retained it since they were tiny. And so often schools kill that desire to learn. We don't quite know how, I have my suspicions. But some schools are managing to retain it by very much the same methods as these are, allowing the kids to do what they want when they want. But if you've got 700, 800, over 1,000 kids in one building, it's very difficult to organise, especially if you have the traditional timetable. But there you see are having an ideal timetable, doing it when they want to. It's marvellous.
But do you think they're a very special family, or do you think that thousands of families in the land could emulate this, or do they need a teacher in the family, basically?
Well, I know, of course, it's an enormous advantage, Paula, being a teacher, enormous advantage. But I'm not sure how she manages to keep up with what's going on. I mean, she may, in 2 or 3 years' time, she may find she begins to get a bit out of date. I mean, things are changing so fast. But still, I don't think that matters all that much. I mean, she's obviously a good teacher, too. Could you do it without a teacher in the family? Not beyond the primary stage, I shouldn't think. But then there ought to be people about who could help, I should have thought. And I think a lot more people could do it than at present do it. But I dare say the schools wouldn't like it. Because they'd be taking away all the children who want to learn. You see, there's few children who do.
Do you think these children are missing anything that they would get at school that would be valuable?
Oh, yes. If she was at the local primary school and all the kids from the road were going to the local primary school, you get that in villages and in London, anywhere, that the street becomes a sort of playground and actually a means of education. Very important, I think. How to negotiate relationships, sometimes with people you don't like, sometimes people you like, coming across nasty children and coming across really nice children in the road. I think that sort of thing they may miss.
The Theobalds have been teaching at home for 6 years with no trouble from the Education Authority. On Tyneside, the Watsons find life and the authorities much harder. Their home teaching has been prosecuted by the council as truancy. Now they're fearful that the authority may try to take their girls into care. Home teaching has obvious drawbacks for parents who work. Michael Watson has one advantage. He's unemployed and spends part of his day helping to teach. We asked them why they decided to take Corrie out of school.
She was unhappy. She cried at night because she had to go to school in the morning. And Friday night she used to cry because she'd have to go to school on the following Monday morning. And she was completely miserable and unhappy. This is the only way we could explain it. We put it down to school at the time, and over the past 5 or 6 months, I think we've proved our point. She seems to be developing again. Her character's improving all the time. She's certainly happier now, and she's learning. One of the things about school was she was so unhappy there that she just had a mental block about education. She would not learn, and she believed that she couldn't do anything properly. She wouldn't even try to do anything. Now she'll do things off her own bat. She'll sit down and pick up a book and she'll read it, or she'll pick up a bit of arts and crafts and she'll get on with it by herself. Whereas before, if you tried to get her to do something, all she would do is, "Oh, I can't do this," and put it down. She wouldn't even attempt to do it.
Now, in the court case, you were conditionally discharged. In other words, you must send Corrie to school immediately. Will you do that?
No. We're still determined to teach Corrie at home. We've been in contact with the Education Authority and told them this. And we've had the ultimate threat, which is they can take our children away from us.
We did see that as a threat. It was, that's the way it was used. And of course, that's to get us to send them back to school, and we find this terrible. I mean, it's that's absolutely awful to use that and to get somebody to send children back to school. It's without really seeing what we are doing.
Would you give in if they actually did come to the point of threatening to take children away?
I think any real person would. Anybody who had feelings for the children would give in at that stage. But I would fight it tooth and nail at that stage.
But neither of you have had any training as teachers. How can you possibly manage to teach children properly?
Well, Corrie went to school for 4.5 years. Now, we found that she was, rather than going forward in education, she was going backwards. Things that she had known. She wasn't progressing at all. Now, she's been amongst qualified teachers for 4.5 years. So, they don't seem to have done all that good for her. And I mean, there's a lot of children these days that you read about that they can't read and write when they leave school. They've had qualified teachers. I mean, we are two people, two children. I mean, Corrie was one in, say, 25 in a class. I mean, how can you treat each child as an individual when you've got 25 of them in one class? I mean, surely 2 adults giving 2 children a time is better than 1 teacher giving a whole class.
There's one thing about school that it teaches that isn't on the curriculum, and that is the social aspect. In other words, school teaches children to get along with each other in the mass. Aren't you worried about Corrie not being able to survive in that?
I don't think it's any great problem. I think this is one of the things about modern education practices that's always pushed forward. School teaches people to mix and gets them ready for a job when they leave school at 16 or whatever it is. I don't really think that forcing kids into a box-like situation of 25, 30 of them together and saying, right, get on with each other, is really teaching them social contact.
I think if you've got a child that's a bit quiet as well, instead of bringing them out, it makes them more introvert. You know, they go in upon themselves. I think this is generally happens to most children. Either that or they've got to become more extrovert. And you get a lot of bullying and things like that, you know, because children don't want to feel different. So
But does Corrie mix with other children anyway, or does she feel awkward with children who have to go to school?
Corrie mixes very well with the children. She mixes better with 3 or 4.
Yes.
Even up to a dozen,
But,
rather than 25. Put her in a 25 class situation, and she closes in.
I mean, learning isn't something that should happen between 9 and 4. I mean, a child learns all the time. I mean, let's face it, parents teach a child a language before it goes to school, and the state comes along at 5 years old and says, you're no longer capable, they've got to go to school. Why? I mean, who says so, you know? It's, I think a lot of parents would be surprised at what they can't teach the children, but we're sort of brainwashed into thinking that we can't do it. I mean, when we started this only 6 months ago, we thought, you know, what are we doing?
Yeah,
you know,
we're fairly
we're not
horrified at the step we were taking. To tell the truth, I just wished it would go away and our problem would cease. The problem being Corrie being so unhappy and miserable. And now we've done it, it wasn't such a great step. It's the thinking about it, it's the pre-situation thing. Once it was done, and we're getting along very, very well. We're perfectly happy now.
Now, Corrie's obviously learning every day. What are you two learning every day from being teachers in your own home?
Yes,
It's a great experience.
Yes,
I would advise every parent to try it for a little bit, even if it's just for a term. You do get a tremendous amount of enjoyment out of it, satisfaction, and it can draw the family together. You find out things about your children, you find out things about yourself, and you're investigating things all the time, makes you aware of everything.
What do your friends in the street think about you and Fern not having to go to school?
Well, Elizabeth, she doesn't often ask us, but she thinks it's somehow strange me not going to school because she goes to that school, and so she knows that I've left. And when I meet children from the school, they say, "Oh, you're supposed to be at school, aren't you?" And they ask us about school, and ask us which school I go to, and ask us what the name it is and whereabouts it is. And I just try to change the subject because I'm just sick of them.
What do you think you've got better at since you left school and started getting taught by your mum and dad?
Everything, I think.
Corrie, what's your favourite lesson when your mum and dad are teaching you?
English. But at school, the teachers didn't explain it, and I wasn't all that keen on it because I didn't know if I was very good at it, and I thought I wasn't learning. And I hope the teachers are watching this.
Homeschooling with one parent already a trained teacher is clearly an advantage, but the Watsons have had no training and they have to learn as they teach. We brought Harry Ray, the former education professor, to their makeshift classroom. We asked him to assess their 6-month-old experiment as rigorously as any school inspector.
Yes. Can you read that?
Yes.
You read it to me.
Rabbits have long ears that are easy to hear with. They like to eat lettuce, cabbage and chickweed. Rabbits like to eat other things too. Wild rabbits live in burrows, but tame ones live in hutches.
That's fine, lovely. How do you spell lettuce? It's mean, isn't it? Can you?
L-A-T-T-U-C-E-S.
Jolly good, jolly good. Well done. Who's that?
A little girl called Sally, and there's a story to go with it.
What made you write a story?
Because when I grow up, I want to be a book writer, and I like writing stories and things.
Yes.
With a story.
There are lots of stories, yes. This is all your English work, is it?
Yes.
Harry Ray, can I intrude to ask how good an education do you think Corrie's been getting at home these last few months?
Well, as far as the basic things, obviously, the writing and the English is as good as, of course, you should get in any school, probably better, because if you've got 30 kids in a class, sometimes more, she wouldn't get the attention, would she?
Do you think, on the whole, that she's doing better than she would have done at school, or is it possible to assess that this early?
I would have thought that, teaching children as individuals, which we try to do in classes of 30, and in some cases get on pretty well with it, it's very much more effective. I think every teacher knows if you could have smaller classes, and now you've got the smallest class you can get, she's doing terribly well.
But neither of Corrie and Fern's parents have ever been school teachers. Do you think that is a great drawback or not?
I think it's only a drawback in their keeping up to date with the things that are being suggested for the ways of teaching children now, which personally I think are better than the old ways. But apart from that, I think having talked to their mother, she's a natural teacher. And she's a lot better than me in many ways. And I'm a trained teacher. Well, this doesn't make any difference, really. It isn't only lessons, of course, it's discussing things, as Dad does very much. What do you do with her?
Well, I find it on the science and the maths side. That's my forte.
Yes.
And I find that
Yes.
I can relate the mathematical and physical world and relate them to everyday occurrences, and in the form of experiments and this sort of thing.
What sort of experiments have you done?
A candle in water with a glass bottle over.
What happened?
And the water rose as the oxygen went away, and the water took place.
Jolly
and
good.
the candle went out as there was no more oxygen.
That's right. Jolly good. You remembered very well, haven't you?
What lessons do you think this has for other parents watching Harry? Do you think they ought seriously to consider teaching children at home?
They certainly ought to consider teaching children at home without necessarily taking them away from school all the time. And I think this is very, very important. But I think it's also important to say that some children hate being taught by their parents, and it's like being taught to drive by your wife, But I think that certainly parents ought to do more. And if teachers say, oh, no, you mustn't, I know how to teach, and you ought to keep out of it, I think the teachers are quite wrong. It's professional arrogance to stop parents teaching. But to take them away from school altogether, if they're happy at school, clearly you wouldn't take them away. But if they're unhappy, as you know, if a parent has an unhappy child, permanently unhappy, day after day, crying and not wanting to go, I think it's an obvious step to take to consider seriously educating them at home, of course.
The North Tyneside Education Authority declined to appear in this programme, and they deny harassing the Watsons. They say they recognise that some parents are capable of teaching their own children if they have the time and expertise. But they say that the authority must monitor such children as rigorously as those in school, so that the proper standards are maintained. Meanwhile, as the battle rages about comprehensives and selection, a significant number of parents believe that school itself is not for them or their children. They consider that school has a deadening effect on the desire to learn. Together with some educationalists, they maintain that home teaching, with its freedom and flexibility, could give the schools themselves a lot of lessons.